Being a homemaker is more than just cooking meals for your family and cleaning the house. Sometimes it is making homemade gifts, restocking stuff like bread for your family for the week, and not letting certain things go to waste. So today I'm going to take you with me on just some of the things that I do as a homemaker. The first thing I'm doing in this video is making vanilla. Homemade vanilla extract is so easy to make. I got a large pack of high quality vanilla beans and some good vodka. For every cup of vodka, or 8 ounces, you will need 8 vanilla beans. I usually use anywhere from 8 to 12, depending on how strong I want it. And cutting them like you see me do here is an option, but it also helps just extract as much of the vanilla flavor out as possible. It's super simple. With that in mind, I used the appropriate amount of vanilla beans for each of these bottles and then topped them off with vodka. These make great gifts for people, so it's nice to have several extra bottles on hand at all times, and you don't want to use them for about 6 months because you really want that vanilla flavor to come out. And don't forget to date it to make sure you know when they will be ready. I recently got a grain mill and started using fresh milled flour for the things that I make for my family. I thought it was actually going to be a lot harder than it was, but it turns out making things with fresh milled flour is a lot easier than you think. I found this old magic mill at a thrift store and got it for such a good deal I could not pass it up. It's an old stone mill and it's an electric grinder, but you can also put a handle on it and crank it if you need to. I have found the best way to get a really fine grind on this is to run the wheat berries through on kind of a mid-coarse grind and then run that flour back through the grinder on the finest setting, and that gives me a really fine flour that is perfect for everything. I've had great results with that, and none of my baked goods have been gritty. So if you've been wanting to try fresh milled flour, don't be intimidated. It's actually a lot easier than you think. And my sandwich bread that I made the very first time turned out perfect, and all I did was use my regular sandwich bread recipe. The only thing I did differently was keep in mind that this bread needs to be kneaded a lot longer than regular wheat bread does. It usually takes about 20 minutes of kneading in my KitchenAid to get this texture of bread, but when I tell you it turned out soft and fluffy, just like the stuff from the store, I am not lying. It is just perfect and so delicious and so much better for you. I will be doing a more detailed video on how I got this bread the way that I did later. I'll walk through the whole recipe in every step, but I just want you to know that it is possible to make delicious baked goods with fresh milled flour. I didn't have a lot of money for Christmas gifts this year, but I did have an abundance of huckleberries in my freezer. So one of the things that I made for a Christmas gift was huckleberry syrup, or huckleberry sauce. It was more of a sauce because it actually had whole berries in it. But it's perfect for putting on pancakes. You could still use it to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches if you wanted to. It's just a little on the runny side. But there's so many different things you can do with it. You could make lemonade and use it for a concentrate and any other kind of drinks, and there's just so many different things. So canning is one thing that I see as my job as a homemaker. I like to can. So I wasn't only doing this for gifts, I was doing this for us as well, and the extras were going to Christmas gifts. But I pretty much make all of our jams, jellies, and can as many vegetables and even ready-made meals as I possibly can. Another thing that most people don't realize is really easy to make at home is their own peanut butter. I have been doing this for years, and the only time that I've bought peanut butter from the store is when I wasn't able to get the quality peanuts that I like to use for peanut butter. There are two different ways that I make peanut butter, and one of them is by roasting the peanuts myself, and sometimes when I am able to, I just buy the already roasted and salted peanuts from Azure. But this is what my process looks like when I don't get the ones that are already roasted. I just roast them in the oven at 350, sprinkle them with salt, and then when they're done roasting, I try to get as much of these little skins off of them as I can. It's impossible to get all of them, but if you get more, it just turns out better. These are what causes the little brown flecks in the peanut butter, and if you get the already roasted and salted peanuts, you won't have the brown specks in there, but it doesn't affect the flavor. Then all you need to do is use a high-powered blender or food processor and blend the peanuts until they turn into peanut butter. It's that simple. And you do want to make sure you add enough salt or it will be really bland. This usually takes anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes depending on how many peanuts you have in your blender and how high-powered it is. When the peanut butter is to your desired consistency, then just pour it into a mason jar and seal it up tight and keep it in your pantry. You can also do this with other nuts such as almonds, pecans, walnuts, really any kind of nut. The taste is superior to the peanut butter that you will buy at the store. It is so delicious and so easy to make when we run out. Another thing I do every single time we make either a chicken or a turkey is save the carcass and make a broth. Sometimes I will can the broth and sometimes I will just make it into a soup for dinner. In this case, I ended up making it into soup for dinner, but I love having canned broth on hand because it costs so much at the store and it's actually way cheaper to do it this way because you can get several quart jars of broth off of a turkey and even probably up to three from a chicken. And it's so much more nutritious than the broth that you buy at the store. I make all of my broth into bone broth, which basically just means that you simmer it for so long, low and slow, and get as many nutrients and vitamins out of the bones that you possibly can. When it's done simmering, I will strain it out until I get all of the pieces and meat out of it. Sometimes I'll make soup and canned broth depending on if I have enough left over. This time I ended up just making this big batch of turkey soup and we just ate on it for a couple of days. To make it in the soup, all I did was add some vegetables, carrots, celery, and onions, and of course some seasonings. And then I put back the meat that I picked off of the bones. And sometimes I will add noodles depending on what mood I'm in. I don't usually eat soup with noodles in it, so I will separate some for me, but usually my family likes to eat soup with noodles in it. This particular soup was actually what I called a leftover Thanksgiving soup because I had leftover gravy in the fridge and I actually used that to thicken the soup, which added flavor and made it nice and thick. And of course, make sure you're always tasting it to make sure if it needs any more seasonings or if it's good to go. course, when cooking things from scratch, there's always a mess, but it's worth the mess to clean up, in my opinion, to have nourishing, healthy foods for my family rather than buying processed foods and eating out all of the time. We still eat out once in a while, but not very often. I believe that it's nice to go out on a special occasion, but for the most part, we should be feeding our families healthy, nourishing foods. Sometimes after a long day in the kitchen, I will still go out and help my husband bring wood in. Usually he's doing it late at night because he had to work all day, so I don't mind helping him carry the wood in. In fact, usually I do try to do it during the day, but sometimes I just get too busy and it just slips my mind. So, on the days where he has to go out in the dark after work, I will go out there with him and keep him company and help him load up the porch with wood. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy my videos, and if you do, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can see more. Leave me a comment and let me know if you make anything from scratch and what your favorite thing to make from scratch is. Also, let me know if you've ever worked with fresh milled flour or not. I'd love to hear your experiences.